Patrick, could you very briefly introduce us, because they're going to learn more about who you are and what you do during the discussion. So a very brief introduction, very quickly.
My name is Patrick Ngowi. I am an entrepreneur from Tanzania, and we are in renewable energy as a whole. We started off with solar. Now we provide other renewable energy solutions. That's it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Rustam?
Good evening. My name is Rustam Sengupta. I am from India. We run a solar energy access company in the rural parts of India. And it's good to be here. We had our first sauna experience yesterday. So I was expecting a little more smoke and darkness, but this is good too.
That's a good point of view. And Patrick. So your first time in Finland, and so I'm going to start with some icebreaker questions, or some warm-up questions as the case may be. Patrick, I hear you're a bit of a demon on the ski slope. Is that correct? You don't need to answer. But it made me realize that Gary Ellison and Larry Page and Richard Branson, these very high-performing entrepreneurs, they like their adrenaline sports too, high-performance yachting and kite surfing. Do you think there's a connection between liking adrenaline sports and walking the tightrope of high-level entrepreneurship?
Let me put it this way. I had an extreme fear of heights. But when I started business, my work involved going on rooftops and installing solar panels, and we were always going higher and higher. And I started the company alone, one man. So it meant that fear had to be conquered. And I was able to skydive and bungee jump and paraglide in order to conquer that fear. So I think it's about being willing to conquer your fears, right? Pushing yourself to a whole new limit.
Perfect. That makes a lot of sense. And Rustam, what's your opinion about the business?
I think it's awesome when you're not wearing clothes and talking about business. It's very honest. You nothing to hide, right? But so it was like really fascinating for us skiing, and I managed to ski more on my butt than my legs. But still, I think the whole fact was the more we fell, the better we became. That's kind of consistent with entrepreneurship too. And
did you have an opinion on the Lulu?
On the?
I can't even say it still after all these years. It's sound steam. You get asked it next time.
An opinion would be hard to develop. I would just say I smelled like I've been smoking cigars for 3 days, even in the morning today. It's an interesting place. And I know why, Finnish people are so humble and nice now, because,
Okay, so that's now, as I say, but seriously, it's time to talk business. Let's talk impact. So, Patrick, how did you get into the solar business in the first place, and what are the challenges of working in that sector in Tanzania?
Oh, that's a long one, eh? Well, my story is I don't want to get into the, if I'm gonna make it as short as possible. I was fortunate enough to have come from a very loving and supportive family, and I was performing. My performance in school had always been very, very good, and so I was always encouraged to ask questions and so forth. So I got into business early because at the age of 15 I saw opportunities within my local my community. We were able to do something about it. Like with $50, I got pump attendants to sell scratch cards. Mobile phones had just got into the market, big business, but the availability of scratch cards was not available. Was not good. I tapped into that market and got pump attendants to resell, and I made $5 a day. But that's how I got into business. Fast forwarding to how I got into solar was I took a gap year before going to university, and in that gap year I got $1,800 and a ticket from a family friend. Now the idea was for me to use that gap year to see if I can generate a bit of profit, because I was very business minded and the family was supportive about it. So, but when I went to China, I bought cell phones, Chinese cell phones, and sold in my local market. At that time, it was booming, 2003, 2004. Big business. Within a year, I had a turnover of $150,000, which was quite interesting for a small business like that you have a handbag and so forth. But that local community that I was selling, those local communities that I was selling mobile phones to, that were in the range of $20 to $30, were looking for solutions. How do I charge this cell phone? But then that's always about having an eye for seeing that opportunity. I think that's what entrepreneurship is all about, and so you don't miss the boat. So for me, I got that feedback from the same people that I was selling one product to. They needed a charging solution, but then their voice was so loud, and I didn't take it for granted, that I decided to devote a bit of time into finding out what the statistics were like, things that I had taken for granted, and I found it was less than 10%. I was in an urban setting, so I didn't really know how it feels in the rural setting, but I got to really understand, visited the places, and decided, okay, now instead of just being a trader and buying and selling these solar solutions, why don't I have a technical approach so that I can be able to sell my products with confidence. So I decided to take, instead of doing university in Tanzania, I went to China, studied renewable energy, and even in China at that time, I was supposed to be a full-time student, but I was busy sending consignments of construction material, furniture, agricultural material back to my home country, because the demand was there. And at that time, for a Tanzanian, I went to China quite early, and I knew the market about network, so I was able to send much needed products back home. But my agenda at heart had always been, how do I cover that gap? There's an energy gap. I knew about it. It was 10%. Of course, the government was doing something about it. Right now, it's all the way to 24%. But you see, there's still 76%. So when I got back, I set up business. At that time I was broke. By the time I was 22, I had only a consignment that I left China with, a container, 20 foot with solar product. A variety, set up shop, a very small store, and the first year was a challenge. I nearly lost hope, and some transactions we did, we got burned, we didn't make money, but I guess I knew the need was there, I saw it, and I didn't give up, and I just kept on going. As for the challenges, like any other business, I think there's a lot of challenges when you're relating to energy. The policy is a challenge as we want to scale up our operations. It's the same story I was telling the Finnish, that it's raising financing is hard, but it's everywhere in the world. Getting the right skill set so as to be able to expand is also a challenge. But then it's the same challenge as the height, I guess. You just have to conquer it and not give up, and if it means you have to go and up a high building yourself, you just prepare for it. That's my perception.
Great answer. And Rustam, similar thing, what inspired you to get into your line of expertise, in solar in particular?
Yeah, I was kind of sinking into the chair. It's really comfortable. What inspired me? Basically, Indians, and I guess there are a few Indian faces here. We live in a country of contrast, right? And it's a country which has some of the richest people who stack up cashes, a lot of money in HSBC accounts in Switzerland. On the other hand, it has a bunch of people who basically don't even have $1 a day to live on, right? So I was like Patrick, from very good parents, my first investors, who funded my education and made me, study. I did my school, I went to US, did electrical engineering, and at that point, only thing I wanted was to make money. Tried to start my first company there. This was back in 2001, 2002. Trying to make TiVo applications. I hope TiVo used to be there. So I was trying to make applications to download commercials. Really stupid if I think of it right now, and it failed miserably because we didn't know how to sell. But during that process, I kept meandering and trying to understand how you can create a market-based solution which sort of brings about a deeper impact. So during, I did my MBA at INSEAD in 2008, and during that time we spent a few months in a village trying to understand what was working and what wasn't working. And interestingly, even being Indian, I was such an alien when I entered the village because I didn't understand how they live, why they were happy, why they were not like writing, because they didn't have any electricity, they didn't have any bathrooms, they didn't have any running water. So it was really tragic. So that was kind of an eye-opener, and it shook us. And that is when I started thinking of creating a model which would both manage to make a big social impact, but on the other hand would be sustainable in business terms. So that's how the process came about. It's like Patrick mentioned, a huge struggle because obviously I started off with solar without knowing solar ever, or not having a solar panel in my own house. Unlike Patrick, who studied renewables, I didn't study renewable. I was a banker, I was selling fixed income bonds. But I knew one thing that entrepreneurs need to know really well is how to sell. Because I've been a salesman since I was very young, selling whatever crap passed in my hand to make any little bit of pocket money I could. So we started a company which started servicing and selling solar products. And fast forward 4.5 years now, it's one of India's fastest growing energy access companies. We've raised enough money and we get invited to Finland. Perfect.
Great, thank you. Great summary. If I pass back to Patrick, you probably got the pattern now. Patrick, you have the very successful for-profit entities, but you also have you founded the Light for Life Foundation. So first I'd like you to tell us about that, and then also I was really pleased to see that you are participating in the Mara Foundation as a mentor there, so a little bit about that as well, but first about the Light for Life.
Light for Life Foundation was established in 2012 with the sole purpose of, I looked at the way the perception of Africa is, and the way African governments are always, their budget is always supplemented by donations and so forth. And one of the next challenges in my life is looking at how you can build sustainable non-governmental organizations that are not, of course, profit-making, non-profit, purely non-profit, but making them sustainable. So my first trial is with the Light for Life Foundation. It's chaired by my mother. I vice-chair it. It has got about 17 employees. And what we do is we try to look at the products that we offer within Helvetic Solar and give them out in a sustainable manner. By sustainable manner, meaning we want to have a social footprint and impact. In order to do that, we believe that we should not only just give out and give out and give out, no, but rather create a culture in which when you give out, you're also allowing the recipient to do something worthwhile with what it is that you've given out. So we work with women and youth, and in what we do is we give them an opportunity to have a new income source so that they themselves make money off the systems that we offer. It's been very successful. The Tanzanian government has recognized it within 2 years, and the Tanzanian private sector has recognized it too, but my goal is now how do we take it to a whole new level. So I'm very passionate about that. On the side of Mara Foundation, well, Ashish is a good friend of mine, and when he told me about it being opened up in Dar es Salaam, and if I can be a part of it, without a doubt, I said yes, because it goes again with what I believe in, giving back. But most importantly, I mean, I've started business when I was 15. There's so much that I've learned, I've seen, there's so many mistakes I've made, that if in any way I can be able to let the next guy know what to do and to avoid certain mistakes that I've made. I myself am fortunate enough to have a mentor, several mentors who are established business individuals who have taken the time to also teach me. So if I can be able in one way or another to help, I can. But yeah, so I've mentored 2 cycles. It has been a huge success. Unfortunately, the Mara Foundation in Dar es Salaam is closed, but we are also launching that program under Light for Life as well for Tanzania. And then we'll continue working in conjunction with Mara Foundation and seeing how we can scale up that. That's
great. I was really impressed to have the innovative use of your gross salary to help partially fund the Light for Life. That was a nice thing to see. Rustam, a little bit different. When you're advising on sort of social entrepreneurship plans or in general, business in general, what are your thoughts on the process used to define the measurements for tracking impact goals in general or in the solar sector? Just to sort of give the audience an idea of the difference between, let's say, measuring profit in cash, but measuring impact in terms of how do you see that sort of area?
I get the tough questions.
That's a really tough one.
So I think the way we do it, the goal is, or the philosophy is that social impact or measuring social impact is institutionalized in the business model itself. It's not something that my employees or our agents feel that they are doing it additional to work, which basically means tracking what products and services they're offering, who they are offering it to, and then going back after a certain period of time to see what the benefits they gained in the short term and long term. And the way we work it is we use a fair bit of technology to make it easy. So for example, when a sale happens, somebody sells, let's say, a solar home system to a community, other than just logging the data of how much he paid for it, he also logs how many people are there in the house. He logs whether the house has any cattle or not. Does the person of the house have a bank account? And I think there are 7 things, I can't remember all of them, but he has to log them. And the way we train them is we attach as much importance in registering that information as much as registering what is the quantity, what is the tax, hence what's the final price. That data goes into our system and it stays there. Then the good part about solar and doing it properly is that it's also service oriented. So you have to give after sale service at a certain point. And we do once every 3 months when you have to go, change the battery water and clean the panels and stuff. And that's another time when they ask a few questions. What's really happened is after capturing the data, we put it on a cloud. And now we have a public interface, and I invite all of you to go and see. It's www.boond.net/boond_map. So if I could bring it up, I would show it, which at real time will show you what is the wattage installed in which of my branches, how many people are impacted, and a ton of other information, whether it's a microgrid or a home system. So it's boond.net/boond_map, and it's very well done because it's real time. So once that happens, it gets into the culture of the company that there is a reason why we started. Being sustainable is, of course, essential, but it can't come at a cost of, not reaching the impact that we want to make. And then, so tracking these impact measurements become easy. So, I can sound all knowledgeable about how we do it, but the reason we did it is because we got investors who put a stick behind our back. Every week, I had to give an Excel report about what impact we were making. So we got sick of it and we made this cloud computed system which puts all our data automatically on the web and they can themselves go and see. So it's got a lot better.
That's a really great answer, actually. I like the honesty. I think, and I kind of sometimes tell this story. I was reading in Harvard Business Review about Pierre Omidyar, of eBay founder, and he made a very interesting observation when he looked back upon the success of eBay and the billions it made, or $1 billion it made, just over. And he thought that, what have I done? I basically created a system for sharing resources, secondhand stuff, so people don't waste it. It's a very impactful business. Of course, it makes lots of money. But then he thought, if I had set out to do the same as a non-profit, would I have ever succeeded in creating this great recycling platform and employing opportunities and things like that? So I don't think, for example, I think what Patrick's doing, for example, in the for-profit, that's also impact as well, for sure. So I think it's sort of a bit, in a way, I didn't want to split them, but it's good, really good answers. So Yeah. So now, specifically Finland, Patrick, how you've been in Finland, and part of the aim to come here was to see if there were any Finnish companies that might be interested in cooperating and partnering with you back in Tanzania. And I was wondering how's that been going, and has anybody shown some interest?
Well, it's been an amazing experience. We have met a lot of Finnish companies that have. It's been more or less a speed dating process. So we still have to give it time in terms of seeing exactly how it is that we will structure things. But I'm quite optimistic that something good will come out of this.
And Rustam, how's it been for you? Have you inspired some people to think about the opportunities in emerging markets?
Well, I invite everybody to come to India and try it out. And the advantage of being in an emerging market is there are people. There's lots of people, and that's all mouths to feed and lights to light up and clothes to wear. So I think it's been great meeting all the Finnish companies and all, and we've been fortunate to see that there's interest of there's companies with deep technological knowledge and innovation who are interested to reach these mass markets. So it's fascinating, but yeah, it's still a very early stage process, but it's the right time. I think Patrick mentioned it in the morning. It's the right time because this is the time when you can go in, innovate and co-create with the local people and come up with solutions which they want, because the solutions are going to get there anyway. If people are hungry, they will get the food, whether they get it here or not. So I think this is a very great time. It's love to be at the top of the curve.
And I was just thinking, it's so funny to even think of India as emerging market in a way when you think there's 200 million middle-class people as wealthy as pretty much as they are in Finland. So it's strange when you think in that level. Patrick, you actually very nicely went into my next question, which is great. So I'll answer the same for Patrick. How would you advise about people who want to go and do business, startup stuff in relation to Tanzania? Yeah, if some Finnish startups wanted to go, and is there some things they should think about approaching Tanzania as a potential place for them to operate and do stuff?
I would like to even. Okay, we operate within East Africa, but I would maybe like to answer the question in terms of Africa. There's a very negative perception of Africa and the images that we see in the media. It's not the real Africa that I know, and I'm sure it's not the Africa that most Africans know. There's a lot of opportunities, and on the ground there's a lot of taking place in terms of development. So for any company that is looking at Africa as a potential place to go and invest or do business, I think that what's important is forget what is said in the media, this and this and this. Of course, there's significant areas that are not so good, but believe me, you talk of East Africa, Southern Africa, these are very peaceful areas. Even West Africa, places like Nigeria are thriving, they're doing very well, population of 200 million people. We are entering the market second half of this year. I just think that when you look at Africa, before you start going and gathering ridiculous amount of money, you just have to look at your idea very well, like any other place. But start small and then have scale up and have big dreams about the continent, because the population is increasing so fast. And you have to look at the youth demographic and see how it is that you will tap into so much energy within that. China has done wonders. It means that whoever comes and looks at Africa in the long-term perspective, they should know that there's so much energy in the youth. So that's where a lot of ideas should revolve around that. But also as well, it's partnerships. Most growth that we have seen in many companies that come on the continent are seen when there's good joint ventures and partnerships, and you have to have a good local partner. So what happens is, for the best joint ventures, you have to have the right partner, the right arrangement, on the right time. Well, the right time is now. I was just reading on earlier, Africa is going to be the next superpower. Yes, we might not live to see it, but it will be. So whoever comes now and establishes themselves and knows what the local landscape is like and works with the locals, so it's not foreign or represents a foreign image, will reap great returns. I mean, we are seeing exponential growth in so many businesses across so many sectors. It's just many business people as well, even the youth, are shy away from that coverage because they know there are repercussions that come with it, but they are doing extremely well. So the time is now.
I totally believe you. I was watching a TED Talk, can't remember the name at the moment, but the guy was an economist historian, and he was showing the graphs of other countries that have gone through industrial growth. And Africa, on its last 10 years, has been doing 5, 6, 7% growth pattern as all the other areas in the world that have been through that process. And based on that, he predicted that by 2050, Africa would have a bigger economy than America and Europe combined. So I think you're really right. This is the time. There's no time to delay, otherwise you're missing the opportunities. Okay, so we started a bit late, but I'm still going to take this opportunity to ask a personal question. I was born in Kenya, and I grew up in various African countries, Botswana, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. And I've been really interested to know what your opinion would be on the potential impact for sunny nations like Africa and India when fuel cell technology combines with solar. Because there's so many fast developments happening in fuel cell, I just wondered if this is something that was on your radar in terms of, for example, creating distributed grid networks and stuff like that. It might be too tricky question, but is it something that's come across your mind? Fuel cell technology?
Yeah, on a theoretical basis. So most of the time when we design with solar, we over-design the system heavily. And the system is unutilized most of the time. I mean, there are peak hours and we design for the peak hours, right? We need storage from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. when all the lights are on, people are cooking and all, and we have to design for that. What typically happens is the systems are big and over-designed. 30-35% is the average base. So in that case, what really makes sense is to have hybrid systems, and where the base case is catered to by, let's say, solar, but the peaks where you can feed in another particular generated source. So I think that's where a lot of future fuel cells could be with the technology. But then again, I mean, I think it's still pretty early stage, because solar is now, it's a commodity. There's no aha moment to solar research anymore. But so for both these technologies to merge, it needs a certain bit of maturization of fuel cell technology as well. So in India, for example, solar is building a huge amount of capacity right now, manufacturing capacity. We have electronics. We ourselves manufacture the electronics and the bulbs and everything like that. But fuel cells is still a very theoretical concept.
Okay. I thought it might be the case, but I think China might speed things up along those lines, and the US, of course, as well. Did you have some thoughts on
more or less?
Well, we would need to get to, just before we go to the audience questions, it'd be nice and it's kind of traditional to ask you guys if you have any kind of top tips, advice in general, regardless of impact, or just about entrepreneurship and striving for success in general. And then we'll do some questions from the crowd.
Wow. I think first and foremost is our mindset towards fearing the unknown should change. Lots of people, I've been guilty of even getting some of the best ideas were not mine. Some of the best ideas were actually from other people who didn't do anything with them. And then that's the start. So it's the mindset to, when you discuss with someone, you see opportunities, and you know, I can connect friends with the network. Then Facebook starts, you follow it through. Or I can, it's always about finding the opportunities within the challenge. So, and being able to carry it forward and believing in yourself, and then looking at things from a different point of view to be able to to make the most of it. But also equally as important is the fact that you also need to be able to look at your idea in a manner that you can commercialize it. Where most people make huge mistakes is you have a brilliant idea, but how's the commercial application? I said it a bit earlier today. I read somewhere once that innovation equals ideas, brackets, inventions, multiplied by the commercialization aspect. So if you have a brilliant idea, but you don't have a way to commercialize it, then there's no innovation, zero. Vice versa. And it's so important to look at your idea in a manner that you can commercialize, because that's what will allow investors to come in and know how it is that they will exit. But so the best ideas, even when you talk of having private equity, when you talk of angel investors, whatever it may be, should come in a way that it can be commercially viable. That's an important aspect. I gave an example. It's about the MP3 player versus the iPod type of situation. The MP3 player has always been there before the iPod, but the iPod was able to commercialize and work with different companies to make sure it makes financial sense. So it's always about how you can commercialize it. Same as Helvetic growth is nothing out of the ordinary from the way I look at it, because we adopted a method that, okay, Tanzania is a huge country, it's bigger than Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi combined, so how do we cover different parts of the country? Then we found out that opening our own offices is a challenge. Then we were willing to split our profits with agents and resellers, and we made the conditions for registration to become an agent or resellers as easy and online-based as possible, SMS-based, and built a platform that can be able to do that. There were so many subscriptions to an extent that we had to block at a point because the demand was surpassing our capability. So it's always about how you can commercialize that. It doesn't mean that the product was extraordinary. It was a good product, very good quality, but we're able to commercialize that aspect. So in my opinion, I think the fear should go away. The mindset should change towards having more confidence, and then you look at it from a different perspective, and then the commercial aspect should play a key role, because that will allow you to get partners, investors, whatever you may think of, and go to the banks and they look at you and they're like, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. And that is what I would tell any young entrepreneur or person who's about to get into the entrepreneurship world.
Wow, that was really good advices, Patrick. I don't have a lot of advices as such, but 3 key things which helped us along the way. So, remember, I've been a salesman before I've been an entrepreneur, and I think it's kind of the same thing. Number 1 is get your, whatever you're designing or making, get it down and out and try to sell it as fast as possible. Like what Patrick said, get it to the market as fast as possible. A lot of people who fail often fail because they try to make something very perfect and they go into that iterative mode of designing, redesigning, but they never go and take the real feedback from the market. So my personal aha moment when we realized we were doing something right was when somebody who earns $2 a day was willing to pay 50 cents out of that $2 to buy some stuff that we had created. Now that's a big high, and it also validates an hypothesis we did. And it helps you get that feedback to iterate multiple times. So get your product out really quickly. Number 2, which is more of a, like from an investor relation, is you will make mistakes. So like Patrick said, so do not really get upset with mistakes or do not really get depressed. I think good entrepreneurs are not the ones which work like an AC current curve where they get very excited or very happy or very sad. For some reason, there's a lot of problems that happen, there's a lot of happiness that happens. You have to stay consistent all throughout. And that's very important for any entrepreneur anywhere in the picture, because other than being an entrepreneur, at some point you have to lead a team and they look up to you. So if shit hits the fan and I make a face, then 40 other people also get depressed and they start making mistakes. But if I just, it happens, it's okay. So giving others the opportunity to make mistakes and fail, and giving yourself the opportunity to make mistakes and fail, is a very key characteristics that you have to imbibe. Number three, I mean, I'll touch upon a personal thing. Entrepreneurship is hard. It's difficult. It's lonely. It's much easier. I used to earn tons of money when I was working for a bank, making rich people even richer. It's hard being a social entrepreneur. It's crap. Don't do it. Really, seriously. Do it only if you enjoy it. Only if you have fun. If your conversation goes like, whoa, I set up a 5 kilowatt 5 kilowatt power plant and it's a pay-per-use system, it is so cool. If you think that is weird, then don't do it. If you really enjoy it, then that's the thing for you. So I think in the end of the day, whether we make money, whether we make anything, we love what we do. And that makes it exciting. It makes us very boring people on a social front, because when I'm having a drink with somebody, all my conversation navigates around energy needs and people and how to create systems and products. And some of the friends who were there with us yesterday at the sauna can tell you it's really boring. But the fact is, it's so exciting. That should be the only reason you go in and become an entrepreneur. Otherwise, it's hard. It's much easier when somebody else is responsible for the crap that you're doing and you still get paid in the end of the month. And you will go broke. All of us go broke. So have a rich dad or a rich girlfriend.
They're really great answers, and the limited experience I have, they resonate completely. And this idea of perfection is the enemy of done is a nice one. We have an opportunity to get some more wisdom from these guys. Hopefully somebody has been thinking up a question they might like to ask. And I just saw that one at the back go up first, so I think, is anybody wants to take the mic, run around with the mic?
Sorry.
It's back.
Hi. Owing to the fact, owing to your last tip you just gave about entrepreneurs being loving what they do, what is the point where you fall in love with what you do and it's not working, that you have to quit, that this business has failed, let me go and check other ideas?
I thought you were going to ask me how to get a rich girlfriend or something. I don't have one. So, well, I think there's a euphoric moment when you start something and you have an idea, and the idea gets created and you have a tangible product. It's very euphoric. I think then it's hard, because then you've got to change gears as an entrepreneur from an ideation person to a salesman, and you've got to start packaging that idea, packaging the product and selling it properly. It's a hard process, and often enough you can feel bad about it. But I think quitting is, I think the way I took it was, I gave myself 2 metrics. One is a number of years. I said in 3 years, if the customers who I want to sell this to don't attach value to it, then I'll probably rethink what I'm doing. So I gave myself a finite period, which is a good thing, because we all live for finite periods of life. And the second thing that I did is, if I was waking up in the morning and not excited to do the same thing, I would think twice about doing it. And that's where building a team helped, because I am horrible at accounting. I mean, I know we make money, but my accountant tells me how much we make. So I know I'm very good at sales, but I'm horrible at accounting. So if I had to do the accounting processes again and again and again, it was draining my energy. So you find a person and you keep him next to you who's good at that. So building a team helps. And the team also helps, because at some point, if your team is good, they will stand up and say, look, what you're doing is crap, and we need to change gears. So that's why mentors, teams, your support structure is really important. And you've got to be flexible and open. And it doesn't mean that if one of your ideas doesn't work, you give up. I mean, I made crappy applications for TiVo for a long time in my life. And then realized that, and the first pilot we did was the serial called Sex and the City in US. And they used to have nice handbags, and we said we'll download the handbag advertisements. So whoever watched Sex and the City would also look at commercials to buy handbags. Awful idea, because I never used a handbag myself. And I thought women would love it, but it failed. And so, but then that didn't take away the fact that, you know, there's other companies that you can start in ideas. But just do it for a while. Give yourself a time. It should never, I mean, failure should never be the reason why you don't start. Yeah.
I think that's a great question. Maybe I would say it's when is enough enough? It really depends with what drives you. I have fallen down many times. I've lost money. I lost all the capital I've had in my business 3 times now. And every time I started all over again because I love what I do. And I've been a serial entrepreneur. I've done scratch cards. I've done construction material. I've done cell phones. We've done interesting stuff, and we still are, and that's why we get into joint ventures and just venture out. It's just knowing that any given time you'll fall down, you just dust yourself off and get back up and do it. And if it's anything to go by, and if you're a quick learner, then you won't repeat the same mistakes. So hopefully the next time you fall down, it will be for a whole different reason. And then there's always knowing how to protect your investment. So the more you fall down and understand how it works, it allows you to as well know how to protect it. So there's ways in which you can protect your wealth by also making a profit and investing it in more stable long term. That will not mean that by the time you fall down, you lose everything. So it simply depends. If this is a passion and this is a path you want to take in life, it's like being employed. Your boss might wake up one day and you're fired for no reason. It's part and parcel. But you don't say you won't look for another job anymore. You just say, no, let me go and update my CV so that I get a better job. That's it.